Hi everybody, my name's Missy and you've joined Jake and me Van Life. Thanks for coming to my channel. Today is kind of an interesting day. I want to do a video on something that happened to a friend and or I guess an event that happened when my friend and I wanted to go camp overnight at this one BLM place. It was very small in New Mexico while we were on our way to Arizona. It could have been South Utah. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look in my memory book. But anyhow, I'm giving an alert that if anything involving death bothers you, you might want to skip this video. This is something that happened to my friend and I when we did stop overnight. We were on a road trip to Arizona for the winter and for RTR and stuff like that. And we stopped for the night. And when we had to go up this little bitty hill, and then we went over this way to the left to park our vans. She has her own. And we noticed this white car sitting in the parking lot. So it was just that white car and us. And we were probably about 100 feet away from him. Well, I thought it was interesting because the windows were part open and there was nobody in the car. And so I didn't give it much thought. And even my friend said, well, I'll bet somebody has gone and pitched their tent and gone camping for the night or several days. And I thought, well, that makes sense because it was a trailhead. It looked like a trailhead, but it was actually a camping place. So we decided to walk around and look at our surroundings because we had just gotten there and tired of being in the van for a long trip, you know. And so we decided we're going to go for a little walk and walk around and see what was around there. And it was really interesting because it was a nice place. They had these nice pedestals set up under this cabana type thing that told you all about the area, the type of animals and trails and so forth. So that was neat. Well, then she says to me, you know what? You see that huge cactus over there? And I'm looking, yes. She says, would you mind taking a picture of me over there? And it happened to be in front of that white car. By the way, there's Jake in the background. He's the other part of Jake and me. He's the Jake. He's watching me, trying to figure out what Mom's doing. So anyhow, we walked over there. We went around the car, didn't even go close to it. And then as we got to the cactus, it wasn't really what she was looking for. So we went on the other side, the passenger side of the car, just to go past it to get back to our vans. And as we're walking, I said to her, I swear I thought I just saw like a human arm in the back seat, looked tan. And she goes, what? And I said, I know, it sounds dumb, doesn't it? I said, it's probably a leather type jacket, you know, brown leather jacket. Didn't pay much attention to it. And then she says, she points over there, she goes, what is that video camera and tripod doing there? And it was obvious it had fallen over, but it was originally standing up facing this white car. And I said, well, now what on earth would that tripod and video camera be facing that car for? And she replied, well, I'll bet that they're wanting to keep an eye on their car while they're camping, and so when they come back, if anything's broken or anything, they can look on the video. And I remarked, okay, but wouldn't they just take the video camera if they damaged a car or ran into it or stole something? Wouldn't they just take the camera? And we both kind of giggled, realizing that that probably was not what it was all about. So we just kept walking, nothing unusual, and it was early evening because when we had gotten there. So we were both tired and hungry, and we both wanted to just get in our vans and chill out, eat our dinner, you know, each other's she eat her dinner in her van, I eat my dinner in my van, and go to bed for the night in order to get up in the morning and head to RTR at Quartzsite, Arizona. So I was laying in bed and I kept thinking, and speaking of, when we first pulled up there and saw the car was empty, I made a comment to her, I wonder if there's a dead body in there. And we were joking. I was joking around, but I said, you never know. But I had this gut feeling something wasn't right. But I let it go, didn't listen to my gut or anything. So I'm laying in bed and I'm wondering, what if there is? What if somebody's in there, passed away? We're going to have to check. So I'm texting back and forth with my friend, and she says, well, let's check it in the morning, and then we can be on our way and not worry about it. Okay, sound like a good idea to me. So we both went to sleep. I kind of tossed and turned quite a bit. It just kept appearing in my mind, and I couldn't let it go, and I don't know why. She said she had a tough night sleeping too because she wasn't sure about it, and something just felt uneasy. So we got our stuff ready, got our coffee made, got ready to go. And I said, well, I'm going to go over and check that car right now and just make sure everything is cool, because I just got this weird feeling. So I went over to the car, and I got this time, and of course it was the next morning, so it's been 8, 10, 12 hours. And I smelled something really bad. Something I'd never smelled before. And I thought, oh no, please let this be okay. I walked up to the car, and although the day before I had picked up the video camera and tripod off the ground and set it back up, just being helpful to somebody, whoever it was, and didn't know what it was about. So now the next morning I'm smelling something horrible as I'm about 5 feet away from the car, from reaching it. And I slowly approach the car. Nothing in the front seat. And I look in the back seat, and there was a dead body laying in the back seat of the car. An unalived body, I should say. I don't want trouble from YouTube. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that living this van lifestyle that I would eventually one day come across an unalived body just out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we were in the middle of nowhere. So I go back to her van and I tell her, well, there's a dead body in there. And she thought I was kidding. I said, no, come on. And then we walk over there, and she notices that his head, we believed it was a male because it was short, dark black hair, thick. And we both believed it was maybe a male Hispanic because it was real thick black hair and tan skin. And his head was propped up by the door, between the door, backseat door on the passenger side, and the headrest area on the front seat passenger side. And its arm was over its body, and that was what I had seen the day before. Oh my gosh, I felt terrible. I felt terrible that I didn't investigate it further the night before so that the police could get there and whatnot. So I decided to call 911, and I did, and I called 911. So this will tell you, if it ever happens to you, what you can expect. So I talked to the 911 dispatcher, told her we had found an unalived body. Thank you, YouTube, for not banning me for saying unalive instead of the other word. But anyhow, I called 911, reported what we had found, where we were, and so forth, gave the license plates of the car to the 911 dispatcher and all. And then she says, is there anything else? And I said, no. She said, okay. I said, well, do we have to wait here? She says, I'm sending somebody out now. I said, do we have to wait here, or can we go ahead and go on our trip? We're headed to Arizona. No. You go right ahead and go on your trip. Great. So we both left, and we didn't really explore the back seat or anything. I will tell you, we did not see blood splattered everywhere. There was none that we could see. We didn't know if it was the big S word, and hence the video camera, or if it was the big M-U-R-D, you know what word, or what. But I still had a bad feeling about it. So we got in our vans and we took off. We decided we were going to go to town, the first town we came across, and we were going to stop at McDonald's. I wanted a frappe and she wanted to get some breakfast. So we're on our way to McDonald's, and it was about a 30-minute drive. And right as I'm pulling in the parking lot, I get a phone call. And I should mention, I kept getting this phone call And I kept hanging up on it because I thought it was a solicitor, you know. Oh, I'm sorry if I made a noise with the speaker, with my speaker. This number was like a number I didn't recognize, and so I was just certain it was a solicitor. So I just kept declining. And then all of a sudden a different number pops up, and I thought, well, what is that? So I just answered it, and I go, hello, because I was so frustrated by the other phone that kept ignoring my decline and just kept calling back. All of a sudden, a male's voice is on the other end of the phone, and he said, is this Melissa? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, you called in the unalive body? And I said, yes, I did. He said, I need to ask you some questions if you have a few minutes. I said, sure. Well, let me tell you, it was hot outside, and it was about 30 to 40 minutes of questioning. What kind of questions did he ask? Where was the hand positioned on the body? Do you know? I believe I'm going to probably have to go inside because somebody's over there doing yard work or something, edging on a Sunday, which is kind of weird at the park. I don't know what's going on. It sounds like it stopped, so I think I'm okay. So he asked me what time it was when we came in last night, things like that. You know, what made me notice the white car? Why was I curious about it? And I said, well, the windows were halfway open, well, partially open, about a quarter of the way open. And the video camera and tripod, and then on the other side, on the driver's side, there was like a little snack table, and it was knocked over, like there had been, I don't know, I'm guessing, you know, a disruption or defensive mechanism or whatever. I don't know if somebody was attacked or what have you. But I noticed all of that, and I told him that. He says, okay, all right. And he said you saw an arm, you thought, the first time when you were walking by. And I said, yes. And he said, tell me about that. So I explained it to him. And that when I went back the next morning and saw it, I realized it was not a leather jacket, but it was the unalive body's arm over his stomach. So he asked things like, well, why did you pick the video camera up off the ground and put it back up? And I'm like, well, because I was just being courteous to somebody. I thought their camera had fallen over. Maybe they were taping something special. So he said that understood. I had to tell him exactly where. Oh, that's a motorcycle, one of those small ones. That's what that noise is. Anyhow, he had me tell him exactly where my right hand was placed when I picked it up, where my left hand was placed, if I could remember. And I remembered because it was just the night before, and it was such a weird situation. I remember every little piece about it. So he asked more questions. You know, why were we there? Where were we going? I said, look, we're just two old ladies camping and traveling in our vans, and unfortunately, this is what we stumbled upon at our stopover for the night. He's very kind, very nice. And after about, like I said, 30 to 40 minutes, he was done with questions. He says, do you have any questions for me? And I said, well, I do, and it's just a curiosity, and I understand if you can't say anything, but was this person done over by MURD? And I'm not going to finish the rest. Or was it the big S, S-U-I, you know what I'm talking about? And he said, I can't tell you, but I will tell you this. I'll leave you with this. He said, homicide is still there investigating. So what does that tell you? That tells me there must have been something very suspicious about the death, and so they had homicide come in. Oh, and he said homicide detectives are still there, as well as still the fire department and all of that. And I said, okay. I said, well, that tells me a lot, so thank you. It just kind of curbs my curiosity. So basically that was it, and we left. I went to McDonald's, and I told her all about the interview over the phone, took our phone numbers, wanted her phone number and stuff, but he never called her, which I, thought was interesting. But I think he just knew that it was just an unfortunate incident that we happened to come across. And then I started thinking, you know what? How many times does this happen? How many times do people find the same thing we found, but in a much more horrible way? And the officer or the investigator I was talking to, he did make a comment that it seemed like he had been passed for a couple of days, maybe 2 or 3 days. And I said, well, that was interesting because the night before there was no smell, but the morning there was. He says, that's about a 2-day, I'd say about 2 days. I said, okay, well, that's what I was thinking, but I'm no expert. I would tell you this, that smell is nothing you will ever forget, just like they say on TV. The worst part of it was it gets in your nasal passages, and we didn't have anything to put under our noses or what have you. And then I remembered I had some CBD cream, and it has it's mentholated. So I put some under my nose. It helped a little bit, but I want you to know, I had that smell in my nasal passages for 2 days. It wouldn't go away. I tried everything. I washed my nasal passages. I sprayed perfume. I did the mentholatum stuff, but nothing would get rid of that. It just had to go away on its own time. So I feel sorry for first responders when they have to go through that also. But you know what I thought of most of all was how sad that we found this man whose family is going to get the bad news that somebody in their family has passed. And it just was really sad. He had a nice car, California license plate, you know. It just seemed like an average, normal person in a very sad situation that we found him in. So I'm telling you this because I think it's important that we all are aware that anything can happen while we're living this lifestyle, van life, or RVing, or what have you. But to always be aware of your surroundings, and don't doubt yourself. If your gut intuitiveness is telling you something's wrong here, pursue it, look into it. I felt really bad that we waited till the next morning. Anyhow, I've thought about it off and on. It was a little traumatizing at first. It's the first time I've ever had anything like that happen. And I really don't care to ever have that happen again. Well, thank you for listening. I have a question for you. Have you ever had anything similar happen to you? Or if you had this happen to you, how would you have handled it? Yeah, I'm curious. I'd like to know. So anyhow, thank you for watching. And can you do me a favor, if you don't mind? Can you, if you enjoyed the video or hearing the story, will you press the like button? And most importantly, I would love it, absolutely love it, if you would subscribe to my channel. I'm brand new, just a few months, and I'd like to see the channel grow. I'd like to be able to share my journey and my stories with others. So feel free to share it with friends or anybody if you want them to see this story. Thank you so much. And you guys all have a great day. I thank you so much for listening to me and being here with me today to tell this story. It's a hard story to tell, and I've thought about it and contemplated it for about a month, and finally decided it was time to get it done. Y'all take care. If you have any questions for me or comments, I would love to hear them. Bye-bye now.